Have you ever looked up at God and felt like he was completely silent? There's a kind of silence that hurts more than anything else. Take a deep breath in and let it out slowly. There are moments in life that don't come with noise. Nothing breaks loudly, nothing falls apart in a way people can clearly see. And yet something inside you feels different. You wake up and everything looks normal, but you don't feel the same. You move through your day, you talk, you respond, but deep inside there's a quiet weight. And maybe you try to ignore it. Maybe you tell yourself you're just tired. But then there comes a moment when everything gets quiet and your thoughts finally catch up with you and you whisper something you didn't expect. God, are you there? Not because you stopped believing, but because you stopped hearing anything back. And what's interesting is most people don't search for a video like this. They're just scrolling, trying not to think, trying to distract themselves until something makes them stop. Not because the video is perfect, but because something inside them feels seen. And maybe that's what happened to you. Maybe you didn't look for this, but something inside you needed it. You try to stay strong for everyone else, for your responsibilities. But when you're alone, it's different. The thoughts come back, the questions return, and that same quiet feeling doesn't leave. You don't break down loudly, so you just carry it quietly. And slowly, questions begin to form. Did I do something wrong? Did I lose something I had before? Why does it feel like God answers others, but not me? And even if you don't say these things out loud, they stay inside you, growing heavier, not because God changed, but because you don't understand the silence yet. There was someone who used to sit in their car long after arriving home, not moving, not going inside, just sitting there, because outside they had to be strong, but inside they were tired. And in that silence, they whispered, God, I don't know how to keep doing this. And sometimes the most real prayers are the quietest ones. Even Jesus had moments of silence, moments where he stepped away from everything, from the noise, from the crowd, and stood alone. Not because everything was easy, but because silence is where strength is formed. God's silence is not his absence. Just because you don't hear him doesn't mean he isn't working. Let's stay here for a moment, because this part is where most people misunderstand everything. Now I want you to think about a seed. When it is placed into the ground, nothing changes immediately. If you look at the surface day after day, it looks exactly the same. No movement, no growth, no visible progress. And if you didn't understand how growth works, you would assume nothing is happening. You would assume it's not working. You would assume something went wrong. But underneath, something is happening that you cannot see. Roots are forming, strength is building. The foundation is being created before anything appears above the surface. And here's the part most people don't realize. If that process is rushed, the plant cannot survive later. If the roots are not deep enough, the first storm will destroy it. And your life is not different. Right now, you might feel like nothing is changing. You might feel like your prayers are not doing anything. You might feel like you are stuck in the same place. But what if what feels like nothing is actually the most important part? What if this silence is where your roots are growing, where your strength is being built, where something inside you is becoming stronger than it has ever been before? Because one day something will rise from this moment. And when it does, it will not be weak, it will not break easily, because it was built in silence. There are moments in life where you pray, not for something new, but for something to stay. A person, a relationship, a connection that means everything to you. You don't ask for more, you just ask, please don't let this end. And you hold on, you try harder, you give more. You believe that if you just keep praying, something will change. But then it doesn't. And the very thing you were asking God to protect slips away. And in that moment, it feels like silence. Like God didn't hear you, like your prayer didn't matter, like you were left alone in that moment. But time reveals things that emotion cannot see clearly, because later, when the pain is not as loud, when your mind is not clouded by what you lost, you begin to understand something different. What you were holding on to was not what you thought it was. What you were asking God to keep was something that would have hurt you more if it stayed. And what felt like silence was actually protection. not rejection, not neglect, protection. And sometimes God does not answer the way you expect, because He sees what you cannot. If you are still watching this right now, I want you to pause for a second. Note the video, your thoughts, because staying this long means something connected. You didn't leave when it was easy to leave. You didn't scroll away when you could have. Something inside you said, stay. And that matters, because most people don't stay long enough to understand. They leave too early, they walk away before clarity comes, but you didn't. And maybe that's because something inside you is still holding on. Even if it doesn't feel strong, even if it feels tired, it's still there. And that means you are not as far as you think. Not every breakdown is loud. Some of them happen in silence. No one sees them. No one hears them. There are no words, no explanations, just a moment where everything feels too heavy and you don't even know how to describe it anymore. You sit there, staring, thinking, feeling everything, and nothing at the same time. And in that moment, you don't need noise, you don't need distraction, you don't need advice. You need truth, something that reminds you that even this moment is not the end. When people came to Jesus, they didn't come because everything was perfect. They came because something inside them was broken, confused, searching. And what's powerful is not everyone received instant answers. Some received understanding, some received peace, some received something deeper than what they asked for. And maybe that's what is happening to you right now. Not everything is being explained immediately, but something inside you is being shaped. Sometimes the most important things you learn in life are not taught with words. They are not explained clearly. They are not given to you in a way that feels easy to understand. They are lived, experienced, felt, slowly, over time. And that's what makes them powerful. Because when something is explained to you, you can understand it for a moment. But when something is experienced, it becomes part of you. And this is where silence becomes important. Because when everything is loud, when everything is explained, you don't always grow, you just react. But when things are quiet, when answers are not immediate, when you are left in a space where you have to think, that is where something deeper begins. That is where you start to understand things differently, not just with your mind, but with your life. Think about the moments that changed you the most, not the easy ones, not the clear ones, but the confusing ones, the waiting ones, the ones where you didn't know what was happening, but you had to keep going anyway. Those moments built something inside you, strength, patience, awareness. And sometimes God uses silence, not to ignore you, but to teach you something that words alone could never teach. Something about yourself, something about your faith, something about what truly matters. Because when everything is taken away, when answers are removed, when clarity is not given, you begin to see what is real, what remains, what stays. And maybe right now, you are learning something you don't fully understand yet, but one day you will look back and realize this silence was not empty. It was shaping you in ways you could not see at the time. Hope is a quiet thing. It's not always loud. It's not always obvious. And sometimes it doesn't even feel strong. Sometimes hope is just the decision to keep going, even when nothing feels certain, even when nothing is clear, even when everything inside you feels tired. And that's the kind of hope that matters most. Not the kind that comes easily, but the kind that stays even in silence. Because hope is not about seeing everything. It's about trusting, even when you don't. And I know that's not easy. It's not easy to trust when you don't understand. It's not easy to believe when you don't see results. It's not easy to keep going when you feel like nothing is changing. But this is where faith becomes real, not when everything is clear, but when it isn't. Not when everything makes sense, but when it doesn't. Because if you only believe when everything is visible, that's not faith. That's certainty, and faith is something deeper than certainty. It is choosing to stand even when you cannot see where you're going yet. And maybe right now, your hope doesn't feel strong. Maybe it feels small, fragile, barely there. But even that matters, because hope does not have to be big to be real. Sometimes it just has to stay. And if you are still here, still listening, still trying, that means hope is still alive in you. Even if it doesn't feel strong yet, and that is enough. for now. I want you to hear this clearly, not quickly, not lightly, but deeply. You are not forgotten, not in this moment, not in this silence, not in this confusion. You are not behind, even if it feels like everyone else is moving forward, even if it feels like you are standing still. Your story is not delayed. It is unfolding in its own time. You are not alone, even in the moments where it feels quiet, even in the moments where you feel unseen. You are not alone, because presence is not always loud. Sometimes it is felt in the quiet. And most importantly, you are being prepared, not punished, not ignored, prepared for something you cannot fully see yet, something you may not understand yet, but something that will make sense one day. And when that day comes, you will look back at this moment, at this silence, at this waiting, and you will realize it was not empty. It was building something inside you that could not have been built any other way. Strength you didn't know you needed, understanding you didn't know you lacked, faith that goes deeper than feelings. And that is what will carry you forward. Not noise, not quick answers, but something stronger, something lasting, something real. So if you are in a silent moment right now, don't run from it. Don't assume the worst. Don't let your thoughts convince you that nothing is happening, because something is happening, even now, even here, even in the silence. If you're still here, I want you to take a slow breath for a moment, not for the video, but for yourself, because staying this long means something inside you didn't give up. Even if you feel tired, even if you feel confused, even if you feel like nothing is changing, you are still here. And that matters more than you think, because most people leave too early. They walk away before they understand. They give up before things start making sense. But you didn't. And maybe that's because something inside you still believes, even if it feels small right now. So if you're in a silent moment, if you feel like God is not answering, if you feel like you're waiting without direction, I want you to remember this. Silence does not mean nothing is happening. It means something is happening that you cannot see yet. And one day you will look back at this moment and understand that this silence was not empty. It was shaping you. It was preparing you. It was building something inside you that could not have been built any other way. And if this message reached you today, maybe it wasn't by accident. Maybe you needed this reminder more than you realized. If this message spoke to you, stay here. You don't have to go anywhere else. There are more messages like this waiting for you. And if you feel it in your heart, you can subscribe and walk this journey one step at a time. You are not alone. Even in the silence,